Alrighty, so you just... One second. Much better. Alrighty, so you just pulled Yoimiya, the most recent 5-star addition to the game, and what's cool about her is that she's the second ever power archer to be introduced into the game, the first of course being Amber, the first person you ever meet. Say hello. Now, chances are, as a new Yoimiya user, you probably are going to be looking online as to how to build her, perhaps see what her constellations are, what weapons she uses, what artifacts are good on her. The list sort of just goes on and on. Unfortunately, the internet does what it does best, which is spread misinformation and cancel things that don't meet the hype, flame things that they don't understand and or like, and Yoimiya is currently in hot water because people seem to have somehow became experts on how she worked before she was even released. You'll have people saying this kind of stuff, you know, such as, oh, Yoimiya power creeps Amber, or antiquates Amber, or some nonsense like that. But then again, I don't expect the loudest part of a gacha community to let off a dead myth almost a year after a game's come out anyway, but then again, you know, gacha-tards be gacha-tards. But then again, the statements that actually do sort of tick me off are the meta slaves that hyped Yoimiya to be the next Ganyu or something, and expected her to perform about the same. And when she didn't, they went around screaming on the internet, to this day, ICD! She's the worst 5-star DPS in the game. Her skill lasts way little. She's only a single target. Can't fit into power comps. AoE sucks. She can't save. And I swear to God, every time I see this shit, I'm getting closer. Just this closer to writing an essay as to why homicide's okay. Because the average players that don't know any better are most likely going to end up rallying behind this brainless gotcha shit whale tuber weebtards, who are also probably the same people who couldn't solve any of the Lost Riches puzzle events, and are also probably the same people that think they're gonna lose their house when they don't reach 36 stars in Abyss. Guys, it's not worth getting angry over an extra 50 Prima Gems and a handful of Mora. Nobody cares how fast you clear Abyss after like 2 weeks, okay? Anyway, rather than further shitting on these half-brained meta-churls, this video serves the purpose of comparing just Amber and Yoimiya, whether it be comparing their kits, versatility and builds, usages and whatnot, and expect side-by-side demonstrations and commentary, and there will be segments, so please check the chapters and timestamps. But without any further ado, let's get into it, and I hope this video will help bust some myths, help someone build, or perhaps just be fun to watch. Away we go. Just for the record, Yoimiya has a 3-stage charge when it comes to her arrows, and just the first kindling arrow is not enough. You need 2, at least once, in order to down the Pyro Mage shield. So it'll go something like this. 1, 1, 2. Because if you only do straight ones, the shield will actually have a little bit left, and I'll show you that right now. Interesting, okay? So, yeah, just keep that in mind as I'm doing this comparison.
Time for a light show. You can't keep up with me. I'll race you there. Get it. No one escapes my sight.
Alright, so this next segment will be divided into 2 separate chapters, one for each unit respectively. The thing I wanted to do here is briefly analyze and theorycraft basically what we can do with each unit's kit that allows them to properly serve a role either as a solo DPS or serve a role in a team. Whether it be being a main on-field DPS, providing support with either their talents paired with certain artifacts, or perhaps a mixture of both. From different weapon usages, artifact sets, and even passives, I'd like to quickly delve into how I think you can build either Amber or Yoimiya. Speaking of Amber, let's start with her first, the OG Pyro Archers, introduced in the first 10 minutes of the game. So, let's start at Constellation 0 first, because not everyone has duplicates of her, okay? And not everyone probably has redeemed the Constellations because they're fucking retards. But let's continue and look at her talents real quick, because this is what makes Amber, Amber. First, you have a normal sharpshooter, her arrow attacks, every archer has this, not worth talking about. Now, Baron Bunny, or Explosive Puppet as the game would like to say, as it still stands, even though it doesn't tell you here, it is the longest taunt in the game, and also is the only ranged taunt in the game, and the only taunt in the game that doesn't move you in any direction out of the player's control for a split second. So no Ganyu like backwards moonwalk, no Mona backwards acrobatic where she teleports in and out of time. It's just being able to either stand still and throw the Baron Bunny within a second, or just pressing E and dashing because she allows this playstyle. Being able to attract the attention of basically 95% of the enemies in the game is pretty valuable in and of itself already, and Constellations down the line, which I'll get into in a little bit, will unlock further methods of having enemies dance with it until they drop, literally. Now, going on to Fiery Rain. Fiery Rain is a concentrated 2-second ring of pyro with 18 arrows that come in waves, and can deal up to 910% of Amber's attack in 2 seconds at talent level 10. If you go to Constellation 3, this number goes up to 1074%, and even at level like 70, she has a multiplier of 708%, which is very, very respectable already. And whether you'll be using this as a damaging burst or shield buster, the fact that Fiery Rain costs literally 40 energy, the lowest in the game by the way. Same with Diluc, same with Keqing, same with Zhongli, same with Ningguang, same with Changyun. You pretty much have an easy way of just applying pyro in a very concentrated area for free, essentially. Now, this allows you to make a build that I already had in mind, but I never really did, which is 4-piece Noblesse. Now, 4-piece Noblesse, as y'all know, 4-piece effect allows a buff to the party for, I think, like 12 seconds, like 20% attack for 12 seconds. And this basically allows you to, yet again, like I said before, cheaply apply pyro while also buffing your party. So if you're looking to do that and you don't have any other ranged pyro unit, which you probably don't, Amber is a good option because we can look into her passives, enter her constellations, and I'll further go into why. Now, when you go into crit rate and Fiery Rain, you probably will understand that increasing the crit rate of Fiery Rain so each wave has the potential to do more than the 9 to 10% that's currently on offer, and winding the AoE by 30%, it's just nice. Although people may kind of argue that the widening of the AoE by 30% is not a good thing, in practice, you'll probably still hit a few stray arrows onto someone if they're moving, and or if you want to encapsulate a bigger area hitting multiple targets, I think that's fine. Now, like, I suppose, like, perhaps if you're trying to hit an Abyss Mage and you want more arrows to be concentrated, you wouldn't want the winding of the AoE. Personally, I didn't at first, but after a while, I was just like, yeah, it doesn't really matter, because eventually the shields go down anyway, as you saw in the previous segment. Now, however, this is not very important compared to Precise Shot, which is her ability that's gained when you have her at level 60 out of 70. 60 out of 70 allows you to unlock the second passive, and this is worth mentioning because it allows you to build her 2 different ways already with more reward. Now, what I mean by that is you can build her, 4-piece Wanderer's Troop, which is what I use on her because I just like using my Pyro Arrow. Now, you can also build her 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Crimson Witch, perhaps even Shimenawa's Resistance, because 18 plus attack, and then the 2-piece for the extra Pyro bonus is always pretty good. Now, you can just charge up her shot, launch an arrow, and melt someone, or perhaps just deal someone a huge amount of concentrated pyro and knock them onto their asses. The second one is where it gets real, and the other one is called Physical Amber, or Fizz Amber, which is consisting of 2-piece Pale Flame and 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry, because those give you a 25% physical damage bonus. And let me just tell you something, okay, in which that these players who play Fizz Amber are a force to be reckoned with, okay? every time I see them clear Abyss with Amber solo, man, I feel some sort of way, and I would just love to see someone who claims to be a god at Genshin play like this, because I guarantee that with their little power comps, they're not gonna match this. PHYS Amber is a fucking menace, and I genuinely love anyone that plays this. So Nitro Tom, PHYS Amber, literally there's a channel called that. Like I'll link some videos on top right corner. This should pop up right now. But look at this small clip real quick. And tell me that isn't just like awesome. Like 7k an arrow, and it only goes up from there because of the passive. Oh, I love it. But enough fanboying. Okay, sorry. Let's go into her weapons real quick. And Amber really isn't picky with whatever weapon she uses. You can use Prototype Crescent. It's kind of like her best in slot in terms of non-5-star weapons. But you can use a Slingshot, you can use Sharpshooter's Oath, you can use Various Hunt, you can even use Raven Bow if you really wanted to. But you can also use Yoimiya's signature bow. You can use, say, even Windbloom Ode, I do believe, where you can like toss Baron Bunny and you get an attack buff. Or you can even use the 5-star bows on offer, which is Amos Bow and Skyward Harp. Anything you want, it's already there. You're good. You're good to go. Amber's not picky about things. You can also use Favonius Warbow if you're running 4-piece Noblesse. Again, just because she's a starter unit doesn't mean that she doesn't serve any purposes. If anything, she's a jack of all trades. So don't sleep on Amber if you're looking for someone that is trying to serve a role in applying pyro at range and or having a good taunt. Because people seem to overlook these guys because they have the banner weapons and the banner characters and be like, oh man, I'll never use the starter characters ever again. I swear it's only the West that cares about this, because in Asia servers, people have calmed down by now. Asia servers, man, if you bring in Amber, people like don't even blink an eye. But I guess somehow, we can just blame the circle jerkers for perpetuating a myth that has long been terminated by now, but whatever. I digress. Now, let's look into her constellations now. So, when it comes to constellations, because C1 is pretty much a very just easy to understand damage buff. So let's pretend that you do 10,000 damage in a aimed pyro shot. Now, that means that 20% of your first arrow damage, it'll be 2,000 damage. So I'll be doing a total amount of 12,000 damage in pyro in one aimed shot base. So even if I don't have her at level 70, she'll do that much damage. It only goes up from there if I hit a headshot. Now, C2, on the other hand, is basically where things get interesting, because it allows you to take advantage of Baron Bunny in a completely different way, and allows you to build her more effectively with 4-piece Crimson Witch of the Flames, where essentially, with the right power comp, you can hit a 6-figure damage with just a single Baron Bunny explosion that crits. Constellation 4 not only allows you to have 100% uptime on bunnies if you're trying to taunt forever, but it allows an extra nuke to go off just in case you need to drop the bomb twice for the enemy to get the memo. And no, that is not a political joke. Constellation 6, however, is basically Jean's Constellation 2, sort of, where instead of Jean's movement speed and attack speed buff, you'll get a movement speed and just attack buff for 10 seconds. And you can pair this with 4-piece Noblesse, and it makes her a really cracked support unit in my opinion, because, like I said again, Fiery Rain only costs 40 energy. So if you just spam this thing to high noon, you essentially have an uptime of 35% attack to your entire party, and while also moving fast. So Outrider Amber, man, she's a true Outrider. She just like sails across the 7 seas, and I can't even really find anything wrong with this Constellation set. And I'm just telling you, Amber is here where she's a jack of all trades, and the point of her as a starter unit is that she's a free ticket to explore with different types of builds, where she'll essentially never be antiquated in some way or aspect, even if someone does the job better than she does, because, like again, I say with confidence, Amber is here because she has to be here. She is literally in every person's account that has played the game for more than 30 minutes. Don't sleep on her if you have been this entire time. Because even if you don't manage to pull Yoimiya, you might want to appreciate Amber a little bit, because no one can really understand that just because your D-Luke does more damage up close, it doesn't mean that he actually is able to score that crit hit to down a Ruin Guard, if you know what I mean. But I digress. Just remember though, just because a unit doesn't fit into a power composition doesn't mean that they are a bad unit, as that is just objectively false and misleading thinking. There's also no meta in Genshin Impact either, but I'll get into what I mean by that later, because I probably just triggered like half the viewers by saying that. On the flip side, looking into Yoimiya, her kit basically tells you to use her as much as you can one way or another. The point of Yoimiya is making sure that the enemy that you're looking at is bullied into the ground to the point of no return, and there's a reason why her auto attacks are the highest in the game for any bow user. Even at level 3 or level 4, half her attacks are already hit over 100%, with level 7 guaranteeing that all of your attacks are a multiplier that ends you with a number higher than your base attack, not taking into account the buff that you get with your skill and or the opponent defense / resistance in question. Now, taking a look into her talents, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, her skill will buff her auto attacks, firing the local Indian food just ate 30 minutes ago at the enemy, and her burst will explode in a suitably ostentatious manner, where there will be an AoE explosion, and an enemy will be marked with what Yoimiya likes to call a goldfish of doom, and will cause the enemy to be showered with a painful pyro confetti every 2 seconds if you manage to score any type of damage onto a marked opponent with someone other than Yoimiya in your party. So, Ayaka's skill or a blade slice, Ganyu's arrow, one of Oz's electro balls, Traveler's rock, Kaching's slice, Zhongli's meteor, you name it, you know? So, her passive talents basically further the use of her on the field, where the first passive talent you get at level 20 will allow every successful hit with Yoimiya's auto attacks when under the influence of her pyro skill will increase her pyro damage multiplier with no cooldown as to how fast you can gain the stacks. Even though it lasts for only a short while, the more you shoot, the more you'll be able to dish out, so just keep using her on the field, of course. Now, with her second passive, activating her burst and swapping off Yoimiya will grant your party an attack bonus, kind of like how you swap off Rosaria after she activates her burst to increase your party's crit rate. So this attack bonus is also amplified by how many stacks you've had stacked upon the first passive you managed to get prior to activating the burst, so it's good to have her on burst rotation. Artifacts you would use on her would either be 4-piece Shumanawa's Resistance, which would people claim to be made for her, or you can use any other 2-piece 18+ attack artifacts such as Gladiator and or Shimenawa, followed by 2-piece Crimson Witch. You could use 4-piece Crimson Witch in a power comp, however, but if you just want pure pyro, the former two will be your friend. If you're on a budget, 4-piece Martial Artist also works wonder as well, because to be quite honest with you, 4-piece Martial Artist, the only thing that's wrong with it is that it's a 4-piece star, or a 4-star piece. Because take a look at Martial Artist real quick. The special effect is after you use your elemental skill, your normal and charge attacks increase by 25% for 8 seconds. Dude, that's like the perfect time for Yoimiya to do her shit. So regardless of what you're doing, man, 4-piece Martial Artist, if you're on a budget, can't go wrong with it. Now when it comes to her weapons, there's a little bit less variety when it comes to her weapons because the game obviously wants you to use her in a certain way, but if you can't have Rust and you can't have any 4-star weapons, Slingshot is one of the best ones that you can get for her because it's not just charge attacks but also normal attacks, and if you manage to hit within 0.3 seconds of being fired, that damage increases by 60% at Refinement 5 at least. So if you're anywhere close to the enemy where you can auto-lock onto them with auto attacks, then most likely you'll be able to take advantage of this buff. It's pretty simple to understand. Now, one of her best in slots is Rust, because it increases normal attack by this amount of percent at R5, but decreases charge attack by 10%. And honestly, it's kind of insane how good this Rust is, because the others kind of don't match up, other than her signature bow in my opinion. Skyward Harp and Amos bow are there, but I would say Rust is easier to get, and it's also just cheaper to refine and or build because it's a 4-star bow. The other bow that you can use on her would be the Veritas and Hunt, because the increased crit rate is always good when you try to min-max her with crit damage, and it also probably makes some opponents easier to hit with some passive DPS, like encircling a smaller enemy, making sure they won't move anywhere, while you can just continuously stand them down with this. You can also use Sharpshooter's Oath if you really want to, but in my opinion, this increased weak spot damage is kind of wasted. You can use it for the crit damage, but you might as well just use the Blackcliff bow at that point, if you're not looking to use the special effect, because at least that special effect is possible, as killing an enemy with Yoimiya is pretty likely with how much damage she deals out. So looking at her constellations now, C1 allows her burst to linger further on enemies, and if said enemy is defeated, she gains a 20% attack bonus. Pretty cool, pretty simple. Now looking into C2, where I have her now, it's basically semi-overkill, because when she gains a crit rate on Ascension, this passive works wonders in skyrocketing her pyro damage multiplier. And considering I run 2-piece 18 plus attack and 2-piece Crimson Witch, with the stacks maxed out on her first passive, I'm able to get 106.6% pyro damage bonus, which is really cool. And considering, keep in mind, it says pyro damage. So even if she's off the field and her goldfish manages the crit, then Yoimiya can spawn back in with extra pyro bonus. So you could just kind of continue having pyro output with Yoimiya. Now, if you look into her C4, it basically guarantees faster recovery time for Yoimiya to get back into the fight via enabling her skill, which is pretty explanatory, because if you have the goldfish on someone and it just sparks up, that's reducing her cooldown by 1.2 seconds. So chances are, if you have C1, your C4 is already going to be pretty much useful. And C6 further encourages you just keep having Yoimiya on the field, as per the extra arrow firing from her normals on a coin flip is pretty good, as it counts with normal attack damage. It's not cracked, but I think it's still really useful when it comes to having Yoimiya on the field and melting people for like 50k. So yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Now, I understand that a lot of controversy is centered around Yoimiya, how her autos miss a lot and her skill upgrades are rip-off, her burst AoE is tiny, and that she has an ICD, which, by the way, if you don't know, stands for internal cooldown, which basically means how much of a delay there is when you're able to trigger elemental reactions back to back. But before even going any further though, don't blame Yoimiya for her auto arrows missing, because that's not an exclusive problem to Yoimiya. That plagues all the archers equally. This is a game thing, not a character thing. It's common sense. I actually read some comments where some people were like, testing, I don't even know what they're doing to test, but some people were saying that other archers miss less or something, but they failed to take into consideration the only other archer that fires as many arrows as Yoimiya is Venti. And I mean, come on, blame the game, just not the unit. It's not like Yoimiya introduced missing with auto attacks or anything. I'll get into other points down the road, but I'm just under the impression that people have just greatly over-exaggerated the issues that Yoimiya has, going as far as to make claims such as she's one of the worst 5-star DPS in the game, or she's essentially unusable. But I guess we have also the WhaleTuber gotcha weebtards and YouTube/Reddit comment section circle jerks to blame for furthering these ridiculous claims, just like how Amber was made out to be useless until now, since October. So I'm also under the impression that her ICD's impact on her damage dealing abilities are also greatly exaggerated, because speaking in purely Abyss terms, I was able to run a freeze/melt comp with her in Abyss 12 just fine, essentially just deleting the level 100 Ruin Hunter in the first half of the 3rd floor, with the units that weren't even built yet.
For mercy. Never! Blood of Frost!
You can also run with overload comps, such as pairing Yoimiya with Beta, Official, and or Lisa. However, I will concede and agree that she's not a perfect unit, even though that no perfect unit exists. I do wish that her skill scaling was better, I do wish her AoE was better on burst, I do wish that she had the ability to stagger, and that her defense to resistance to interruption was better, because here's the thing. This is not worth, okay, this much more and this many materials. 10-8 is going to be where I stay for a while. So, like, those are valid complaints, right? I'm not going to simp for her saying that she's a perfect unit, because those are pretty big deals to a lot of people, and they are pretty big deal to me, even though that, personally, I have the luxury of using Zone Link with her. But that's not the point. Like, am I going to use her less because of this? No. If anything, like, she kind of replaced my Diluc. But I'm not going to say that, like, Diluc is now useless because Yoimiya exists. No, that's just stupid. Like, like, for example, if I'm going to be fighting a Sisson Mage, I'm not going to be bringing Yoimiya because her auto attacks will lock onto the wrong things most likely. It's like bringing Diluc to fight the Oceanid Sparrows, but you don't have the burst up. You're bringing the wrong unit for the wrong occasion. You got to understand which unit will serve the purpose that will come across in either Abyss or in the overworld. And for me, Yoimiya fits a lot of roles. I love the ability to just bully the shit out of big enemies and drop them like flies, or just chunk off their HP like no other. Like, it's amazing how much damage I'm being able to do with C2 Yoimiya. It's actually really cool. Now, say like I don't have Hu Tao on my main account, and I do like a bit of range when it comes to applying my pyro. She works, and when she works, she does. And I swear her biceps should be inflated by now with so many arrows being fired. But let me tell you something, if I see Yoimiya with muscles, okay, I'm gonna lose consciousness because all my blood will be rushing to a particular spot in which I won't name in order to keep this video from getting more risk. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So where does this really leave us? Well, to be fair, I don't think this argument should have sparked up in the first place, but when it comes to Amber and Yoimiya, they should probably just coexist, because even though they're both pyro archers, two of them serve different purposes, even though if both of them are capable of launching pyro arrows, like this. The point of it is that their kits are still different, and their talents will provide different buffs, because Yoimiya and Amber, even though that they're both pyro archers, like I said before, at the end of the day, Amber is more like a jack of all trades, and Yoimiya is like DPS with support tacked on, because the only part that she's allowed to support with is her burst, because it applies the Goldfish of Doom. Now when it comes to Amber, she has many purposes, such as Baron Bunny, or when it comes to breaking a shield, and or just hitting a bunch of people and applying pyro, Fiery Rain. Oh. My feet are on fire. But with Yoimiya, basically the kit tells you to make sure that Yoimiya is on the field and that she deals a bunch of damage, because this buffs her autos. So I don't really think there's a point in comparing both of them. If anything, they should coexist, because coexistence is probably the best medium and probably the best outcome for anything, because not only is there no friction, but you just have more fun with it. As for example, watch this.
What's one more?
Fuse is lit!
Never forget about the fact that the majority of Genshin is not Spiral of Abyss, okay? That's basically how you sap the fun out of everything, when you focus so hard and invest yourself in trying to get those 36 stars every 2 weeks, that you just kind of forget about the rest of the game. I understand that some people like myself, we kind of curse ourselves, okay? Everything is completed, and the majority of our stuff is just waiting for the right commission to come around so we can get those achievements. But the majority of other people, such as people that play this game every other day, maybe twice a week, maybe just for like 30 minutes at a time every day, the majority of the game...
Goldfish as pets? They're very cute.
Yes, but they died in the filter. But anyway, the problem in which that I see a lot is that people seem to focus way too much on endgame content when excluding a lot of people that just kind of pull for the unit because they think they're cute, because they're cool, because they like their story. And honestly, I think people put way too much emphasis on calling things meta, because like I said before about 20 minutes ago, there is no meta in Genshin Impact. And I understand that people might be like, oh, blasphemous. There is obviously meta, because there are units that help you speed Abyss up, and that's why I like to address. Personally, I never really got the clear it faster or speedrun Abyss thing, because yes, I understand that clearing Abyss fast is how you get the rewards, but after a certain point, like, come on, 3 stars is just 3 stars. Nobody can really tell you your 3 stars are undeserved. I read a post that hit the front page of the Genshin subreddit the other day about how Yoimiya needs a rework and whatnot. And even though I do agree on some points that I listed before in her segment in this video, like, something about using her against Magu Kenki in Abyss 12 was straight up, like, masochistic, but I mean, here I am clearing it with 3 stars and having fun with it, so what are you gonna tell me, like, I shouldn't have? This circles back to me saying that meta doesn't exist in Genshin because it's just a shitty term that nobody has bothered to replace, because when people use the word meta, they're most likely talking about Spiral Abyss, which again revolves back to me saying that Genshin is not just Spiral Abyss. Spiral Abyss is like 5% of the game. And there could be so many phrases and words that can replace mention meta or meta in Genshin, but instead people just choose this convoluted term that has no place in the game, really. You can say, you know, Abyss speedrunning unit, powerful unit, power comp unit, elemental type reaction unit, so like melt unit, vape unit, overload unit. Regardless of what you can come up with, meta is just a word that is just inaccurate, because you can reasonably get through the entirety of the game in many ways, whether it be from the 4 started units, the 7 free-to-play units, or maybe all 5-star units in the entire game. Like, suddenly saying that there's a meta invokes such a misdirection that it's almost kind of revolting, really. Yes, I understand there's meta when it comes to Spiral Abyss, but if you're going to call a unit meta, at least specify that you're talking about Abyss. But even then, that just kind of circles back to the point I made earlier about how it's a shitty piece of terminology that nobody bothered to replace. You incite this sort of FOMO, or fear of missing out, for a lot of people, thinking that some characters are just better than others, when in reality, the majority of the game can be completed in many different ways. The strength of Genshin is that you can complete the game, at least the majority of it, however you would like. And just to say that another unit is shittier than the other is just kind of misplaced anger, in my opinion. Like, there's no point in saying Amber is useless, or Yoimiya is unplayable, or Zhongli is like overused in meta, and he's like necessary to win the entire game. Like, no, that's not the point of Genshin. Genshin just wants you to have fun with the game. At least I hope it does. So that's probably going to be it when it comes to this video. I have gone on for way too long. The video is like almost 40 minutes, if not over 40 minutes. And to be quite honest with you, I'm probably never going to do this type of video again, because video type essays are just not my thing. So as it stands, the only reason why I did this is because I love Genshin as a game, and I love the people that I've met when it comes to Genshin, because I have made some friends that share the same sentiment as I do. But until next time, most likely this won't reach more than like 200 people. To those that actually have tuned in and considered my food for thought, I appreciate you, I thank you, and please spread the word. Because, listen, Genshin needs to survive for the next I don't know how many years. I want to see the end of the game, please.